Have you ever wondered why the most talented people you know seem to be their own worst enemy? Why brilliant artists never finish their masterpieces? Why gifted entrepreneurs sabotage their businesses right before they take off? Or why the most capable individuals consistently find ways to undermine their own success? Here's what's fascinating: self sabotage isn't random. It's not weakness, and it's definitely not evidence that you're broken or destined to fail. In fact, self sabotage is often a distorted guardian, protecting something far more valuable than you realize: your authentic gift to the world. My name is Alex, and over the past decade, I've worked with hundreds of high achievers, creative professionals, and entrepreneurs who all shared one bewildering pattern. The closer they got to expressing their true potential, the more creative they became at destroying their own progress. What I discovered changed everything I thought I knew about human psychology and success. But before we dive deep into this mystery, let me share something that might sound completely counterintuitive. The very thing you think is holding you back, that voice in your head that creates doubt, that impulse to procrastinate when opportunity knocks, that tendency to pick fights right when things are going well, might actually be the key to unlocking the most authentic version of yourself. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand not just why self sabotage happens, but how to decode the hidden message it's desperately trying to send you. Because here's the truth nobody talks about. Your self sabotage patterns are like a treasure map written in a language you've never been taught to read. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like some feel good psychology nonsense, right? Like I'm about to tell you that all your problems are actually gifts in disguise. But stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal is backed by years of research in developmental psychology, neuroscience, and something called internal family systems therapy that's revolutionizing how we understand the human psyche. 3 years ago, I met Sarah, a brilliant graphic designer who had landed her dream job at a prestigious agency. She was talented, hardworking, and everyone could see she was destined for creative leadership. But here's what happened. Every single time she was given a high visibility project, she would inexplicably make the same mistake. She'd start strong, produce incredible work, and then at the last minute, she'd second guess herself, make unnecessary revisions, and ultimately deliver something safe and unremarkable. Her colleagues were baffled, her boss was frustrated, and Sarah, she was convinced she was just not cut out for success. But when we started digging deeper into her patterns, something remarkable emerged. Sarah's self sabotage wasn't random at all. It was actually a sophisticated protection system that had developed during her childhood to keep her safe from a very specific kind of danger. You see, Sarah grew up in a household where standing out meant becoming a target. Her father was deeply threatened by anyone in the family who showed signs of surpassing his own achievements. So young Sarah learned at a subconscious level that her survival depended on staying small, on never outshining the people around her. Her creative gift was real, but so was the terror of what might happen if she let it fully emerge. And this is where it gets really interesting, because Sarah's story isn't unique. In fact, after working with hundreds of people struggling with self sabotage, I've identified 5 distinct patterns that show up again and again. Each pattern represents a different way that our psyche tries to protect us from perceived threats to our safety, belonging, or identity. The first pattern I call the perfectionist paradox. These are people who set impossibly high standards for themselves, not because they're genuinely committed to excellence, but because they're terrified of being seen as mediocre. They'd rather not try at all than risk producing something imperfect. Sound familiar? The second pattern is the success allergic. These individuals have an almost supernatural ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. They'll work incredibly hard to build something meaningful and then systematically dismantle it right before it reaches its full potential. It's like they're allergic to their own success. The third pattern is what I call the invisible genius. These are extraordinarily gifted people who consistently hide their light under a bushel. They downplay their achievements, deflect compliments, and find ways to make themselves forgettable right when they should be stepping into the spotlight. The fourth pattern is the chronic starter. They're fantastic at beginning new projects, launching new ventures, and generating brilliant ideas. But they have an almost mystical inability to see anything through to completion. Their hard drives and notebooks are graveyards of abandoned potential. And the fifth pattern, perhaps the most heartbreaking, is what I call the helper's trap. These are people whose gift lies in supporting and elevating others, but who feel deeply uncomfortable receiving the same level of care and attention they freely give. They'll sabotage their own needs to maintain their role as the perpetual giver. Now, here's what's crucial to understand. Every single one of these patterns developed for a reason. They're not character flaws or signs of weakness. They're intelligent adaptations to environments that somehow made success feel dangerous. Think about it this way. Imagine you're walking through a forest and you come across a beautiful flower that's surrounded by warning signs and barriers. Your first instinct might be to think those barriers are preventing you from accessing something wonderful. But what if those barriers were actually protecting something incredibly precious from being destroyed by the wrong kind of attention? That's exactly what's happening with self sabotage. Your psyche has identified your true gift, that unique combination of talents, perspectives, and capabilities that make you irreplaceable in this world, and it's built elaborate protective mechanisms around it. The problem is, the same mechanisms that once kept you safe are now keeping you small. But here's where this gets really exciting. Once you understand the language your self sabotage is speaking, once you can decode the specific fears and beliefs driving your patterns, you can begin to work with these protective parts of yourself instead of against them. Because your authentic gift isn't just about what you're naturally good at, it's about the specific way you're meant to contribute to the world, the particular flavor of healing or creation or innovation that only you can provide. And often, the very thing you're most afraid to express is the thing the world most needs from you. I've seen this transformation happen hundreds of times now. People who thought they were fundamentally flawed, discovering that their self sabotage was actually a guardian protecting their deepest truth. Artists who stopped hiding their work and started changing lives with their creativity. Entrepreneurs who stopped playing small and began building the companies they were truly meant to lead. Leaders who stopped apologizing for their vision and started inspiring movements. But this transformation doesn't happen by trying to eliminate or override your self sabotage. It happens by getting curious about it, by approaching these protective parts of yourself with compassion and respect, and by gradually creating enough safety for your authentic gift to emerge. In the next part of this exploration, we're going to dive deep into the specific mechanisms that drive self sabotage, and I'm going to show you a practical framework for identifying your unique pattern and beginning to work with it constructively. We'll explore the neuroscience behind why our brains are wired to protect us from success, and I'll share the exact steps that Sarah and hundreds of others have used to transform their relationship with their own potential. Because here's what I've learned: the goal isn't to become fearless, the goal is to become fear friendly, to develop a relationship with the protective parts of yourself that allows your authentic gift to shine through despite the presence of fear. The reason this framework works where traditional self help approaches fail is because it addresses the fundamental misunderstanding most people have about resistance. We've been taught to see self sabotage as the enemy, something to overcome or eliminate. But what if I told you that your resistance isn't trying to stop you from succeeding? It's trying to stop you from succeeding in the wrong way. Let me explain what I mean through the story of Marcus, a software engineer who came to me after watching his third startup fail in spectacular fashion. Each time, the pattern was identical. He'd have a breakthrough idea, assemble a talented team, secure initial funding, and then mysteriously lose all motivation right when the company was gaining traction. His investors were confused, his co founders felt betrayed, and Marcus was convinced he was cursed. But when we mapped out his self sabotage pattern, something fascinating emerged. Marcus wasn't afraid of success, he was afraid of becoming successful for the wrong reasons. Deep down, he recognized that the ventures he was building, while profitable, weren't aligned with his authentic vision for how technology could serve humanity. His self sabotage wasn't protecting him from achievement, it was protecting him from achieving something that would ultimately feel hollow. This is what I call the authenticity guardian. It's the part of your psyche that would rather see you fail at something meaningful than succeed at something that violates your core values. And once Marcus understood this, everything changed. Instead of fighting his resistance, he started listening to it. Instead of pushing through his lack of motivation, he got curious about what it was trying to tell him. The breakthrough came when he realized his true gift wasn't just building software, it was creating technology that could democratize access to education in underserved communities. The moment he aligned his efforts with this deeper purpose, his self sabotage patterns completely dissolved. The resistance that had once felt like an insurmountable obstacle became his most trusted advisor. But here's where most people get stuck. They think that once they identify their authentic gift, the path forward becomes clear and easy. They expect the resistance to disappear entirely. But that's not how it works. Your authentic gift comes with its own set of challenges, its own forms of vulnerability that your psyche needs to navigate carefully. Think about it this way. Imagine you've been hiding a priceless diamond in a safe for years because you were afraid someone might steal it. Now, you've decided it's time to share this diamond with the world. You wouldn't just throw open the safe and leave the diamond sitting on your front porch, would you? You'd want to create the right conditions, find the right people, choose the right moment. That's exactly what your self sabotage is trying to do. It's not trying to keep your gift locked away forever. It's trying to ensure that when you do share it, you're doing so in a way that honors its value and protects its integrity. This is why the traditional approach of just push through your fears often backfires so dramatically. When you try to force your way past your protective mechanisms without understanding their purpose, you're essentially telling the most wise and caring part of yourself to shut up and get out of the way. And what happens when you do that to someone who's trying to protect you? They get louder, more insistent, more creative in their attempts to get your attention. I've seen brilliant writers develop sudden cases of writer's block right before submitting their manuscripts. I've worked with gifted speakers who become mysteriously ill before important presentations. I've coached talented leaders who pick fights with their teams right when a major promotion is on the horizon. In every case, the self sabotage wasn't random. It was a sophisticated communication system trying to ensure that success happened in alignment with the person's deepest values and authentic expression. But here's the key insight that changes everything. Your protective mechanisms are incredibly intelligent, but they're operating with outdated information. The strategies that kept you safe as a child or young adult may no longer serve you in your current circumstances. The threats your psyche is protecting you from may no longer exist, or may exist in such a different form that your old defenses are not only unnecessary, but counterproductive. This is where the real work begins. It's not about eliminating your self sabotage, it's about updating the operating system that drives it. It's about having a conversation with these protective parts of yourself, acknowledging their positive intention, and collaboratively developing new strategies that honor both your need for safety and your desire for authentic expression. I call this process the gift negotiation, and it involves three specific phases that I've refined over years of working with high performers who struggle with self sabotage. The first phase is recognition, learning to identify your unique self sabotage pattern and understand the specific fears driving it. The second phase is relationship, developing a compassionate, collaborative connection with your protective mechanisms instead of fighting against them. And the third phase is redesign, working together with these parts of yourself to create new strategies that allow your authentic gift to emerge safely. What makes this approach so powerful is that it treats your self sabotage as an ally rather than an enemy. Instead of trying to overcome your resistance, you're learning to dance with it. Instead of pushing through your fears, you're creating enough safety for your courage to naturally emerge, and the results speak for themselves. Sarah, the graphic designer I mentioned earlier, eventually became the creative director at her agency and now leads workshops helping other artists overcome their own creative blocks. Marcus launched a nonprofit that's brought educational technology to over 50,000 students in developing countries. The transformation wasn't about becoming fearless. It was about becoming more skillful at navigating fear. But perhaps the most profound shift that happens through this process isn't just about overcoming self sabotage. It's about discovering that your authentic gift isn't just a talent or skill set, it's a unique way of being in the world that naturally creates value for others. When you stop hiding from your true potential and start expressing it authentically, you don't just transform your own life, you become a catalyst for transformation in everyone around you. The question isn't whether you have a gift worth sharing. The question is whether you're willing to develop the relationship with your own psyche that allows that gift to emerge in its full power and authenticity. Your self sabotage isn't a bug in your system, it's a feature that's been running an outdated program. And once you learn to upgrade that program, everything changes. The truth is, most people spend their entire lives fighting a war against themselves that they can never win. They see their resistance as evidence of weakness, their procrastination as proof of laziness, their self doubt as confirmation that they're not meant for greatness. But what if I told you that every single one of these patterns is actually your psyche's attempt to protect something sacred? Here's what happens when you begin to work with your self sabotage instead of against it. First, you stop wasting enormous amounts of energy trying to override your own protective mechanisms. Think about how exhausting it is to constantly fight yourself, to push through resistance that feels like swimming upstream in thick mud. When you learn to collaborate with these parts of yourself, that energy becomes available for actual creation. Second, you develop what I call authentic confidence. This isn't the brittle, performance based confidence that crumbles the moment you face a real challenge. This is the deep, unshakable knowing that comes from being aligned with your true nature. When your external actions match your internal values, when your work in the world reflects your deepest gifts, you stop needing external validation to feel worthy. Third, and perhaps most importantly, you become a permission giver for others. When people see you expressing your authentic gift, despite your fears, when they witness you honoring both your potential and your humanity, it gives them permission to do the same. Your willingness to be real becomes a beacon that helps others find their way home to themselves. But let me be clear about something crucial. This process isn't about positive thinking or manifesting your dreams into reality. It's about developing a mature, sophisticated relationship with the complexity of your own psyche. It's about learning to hold space for both your brilliance and your terror, your vision and your vulnerability. The people who transform their relationship with self sabotage don't become fearless superhumans. They become more human, more real, more willing to show up as themselves in a world that often rewards conformity and performance. They learn that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to let your gift matter more than your fear. So here's my invitation to you. Stop trying to eliminate your self sabotage and start getting curious about what it's protecting. Stop seeing your resistance as evidence that you're broken and start recognizing it as evidence that something in you knows you're meant for more than you're currently allowing yourself to express. Your authentic gift is waiting. It's been waiting your whole life. It's been protected, guarded, kept safe by the very mechanisms you've been trying to overcome. And the moment you're ready to honor both the gift and its guardian, the moment you're willing to create enough safety for your true potential to emerge, everything shifts. The world doesn't need another perfect person. The world needs you. Messy, complicated, brilliant, scared, gifted you because your peculiar combination of talents, perspectives, and experiences creates a unique signature that can't be replicated by anyone else. Your self sabotage has been protecting that signature, waiting for the right moment, the right conditions, the right relationship with yourself to let it shine. That moment is now. Your gift is ready. The question is, are you ready to stop hiding and start becoming who you've always been meant to be? The choice is yours. You can continue fighting a war against yourself that you'll never win, or you can begin the most important negotiation of your life, the one between who you've been and who you're becoming. Your authentic gift is on the other side of that conversation. And trust me, the world is waiting for what only you can give.